What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with another Aha remix from the Time and Again compilation album. And my understanding is all the remixes from this point out are from the time of the original release of a given track, whereas the first couple were from right around the time that this compilation was released. In any case, we're going to listen to the Jellybean mix of Cry Wolf, a tune from Scoundrel Days, so with that in mind, I would expect it to maybe be an 80s remix style, which is to say, not terribly far away from the album track, but a bit more dance floor, maybe even with an extended instrumental interlude or one of those rhythmically cycling sections where they take one of the vocals and almost sample it and use it as a rhythmic or even percussive type of element. So yes, I do wonder if it'll be in kind of extended or 12-inch mix from the 80s vein, or whether it will be some other type of remix or a surprise. So let's give it a listen. This is Aha. It's a remix of Cry Wolf, and it's called the Jellybean mix. A lot to say here. Number one, I feel like it is longer than the album tune, which is not surprising for a remix, certainly not for a remix, which I do think has a bit of that 80s remix style where there's more notable percussive rhythms and different drum tapping, between the verses and the choruses. It feels not terribly far away from the album version, but again, it seems a bit stretched out, a bit extended, and a bit more identifiably like rhythmic interlude amended. Nevertheless, I was thinking as I was listening, like, number one, it's just a fun tune. I know it's not everyone's favorite song in their catalog, but it really is a fun song, and perhaps personified most clearly by the wolf howl type of vocals when it comes to the chorus. I've always enjoyed that. Secondarily, I was thinking as I was listening that now when I hear this tune, I can't help but think of the like frenetic, almost a bit stroby pathing outside from the music video. So the music video has gotten a bit like burned into my head relative to the Sonics. Thirdly, I was also thinking that I don't know if I've considered this song in this context, but in a lot of different deep dives, I've come to understand, and I've now talked about, the way in which a lot of groups that are known for their electronic synth pop of the early to like mid 80s then transitioned to, or at least incorporated, more like funk and soul sounds into still a synth pop framework as you get to the middle of the 80s and leading into the second half. And obviously 86 is like barely in the second half of the 80s, but I do feel a soulful character to this song, even though it's still sort of driving synth pop. I mean, we still have those big electronic keyboard chords which dominate the main melody of the track, but something about the chorus, it makes me think of like a soul pop group kind of dancing on stage. So yeah, I don't know if I've ever thought of it in that context. I talk about a lot like Notorious from Duran Duran, which I think is 87, and Be Yourself Tonight from the Eurythmics, which I think is like 85. So again, barely halfway through the 80s, but those albums definitely take groups that are maybe most known for their electronic sounding synth pop of the first half of the 80s, or I suppose in Duran's case it's a bit of that like new wave synth rock, but they infuse like a soulful funk sound into that dynamic that they were already doing, and I hear a bit of that here, and I don't know if that's something I've thought about or even talked about at all in previous reactions of this tune, but I felt it on this listening, or this version of the track. So yeah, I don't know again if that's a product of hearing this remix version or just more experience with the song in general. And yeah, ultimately it's a fun tune. I feel the soulfulness. I feel like it's more or less the album track, but again, maybe a bit stretched out and with a bit more interlude percussive flourishes that just sound like that 80s 12-inch or extended mix. So yeah, not terribly far away from the album song, but definitely a fun ride. And as I said, that's maybe something I've come to see in this tune more than anything else, that it just sounds like a group having fun and, sort of being a bit playful, I guess. Whereas, other songs, even from this same album, have a bit more intensity and they're not so sort of light, and certainly not doing vocals that, sound like a wolf cry. So yeah, a cool tune. I enjoyed the remix. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.